Good morning, and welcome to this powerful Wednesday morning prayer. Before you begin your day, take a deep breath and remember this. God is already working behind the scenes, even when you cannot see it. The answer you've been praying for may be closer than you think. Your situation may look impossible, but God is not limited by what you can see. Today, choose to believe that your miracle is already in motion. Maybe you woke up carrying a burden, waiting for a breakthrough, healing, restoration, financial provision, peace in your family, or a door to finally open. But today, God wants to remind you that waiting does not mean He is doing nothing. He is working in places you cannot see, preparing things you cannot yet understand, and aligning circumstances according to His perfect purpose. Your faith may be tested, but your story is not finished. So as we pray together this morning, release the fear, release the doubt, and place your expectations completely in God's hands. Believe that He can turn delays into divine appointments, obstacles into opportunities, and impossible situations into testimonies. You don't have to know how the miracle will happen. You only need to trust the One who has the power to make it happen. If you are believing God for something today, don't keep it hidden in your heart. Write Amen in the comments as an act of faith, and also comment one thing you're believing God for today. Your comment can be your declaration that you still believe, even before you see the answer. And if this prayer speaks to your heart, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for daily prayer, encouragement, faith, and powerful moments with God. Now, wherever you are, quiet your heart and prepare yourself for prayer. Father, we come before you this Wednesday morning, believing that you are already working on our miracle. Even when we cannot see the way forward, we trust your plan. Strengthen our faith, renew our hope, and fill us with the confidence that victory is coming in your perfect timing. Let this be the day we stop fearing what we cannot control and start trusting the God who is already working on our behalf. There are moments in life when you pray, you believe, you wait, and yet nothing seems to change. You look at your circumstances and wonder, God, where are you? You prayed for the door to open, but it still looks closed. You prayed for healing, but the situation still feels difficult. You prayed for provision, but the numbers still do not make sense. You prayed for your family, your future, your purpose, and your breakthrough, but you cannot see any evidence that things are moving. Yet this morning, I want you to hold on to this truth. God is already working behind the scenes. Just because you cannot see what God is doing does not mean He is doing nothing. There are things happening beyond your natural understanding. There are conversations you are not hearing. Doors you do not know are being prepared. Opportunities you have not discovered. And circumstances God may already be arranging in ways you cannot recognize yet. Your eyes may see the waiting, but faith sees the work of God. Think about how often God has worked in your life before you even realized it. There were moments when something did not happen the way you wanted, and at the time, you may have been disappointed. But later, you discovered that the delay protected you. The closed door redirected you. The disappointment prepared you for something better. What looked like a setback was actually part of a process you could not understand at the time. Sometimes God's greatest work begins in silence. When the seed is planted in the ground, you do not immediately see a tree. You see only soil. You may look at that ground and think nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, something is taking place. The seed is breaking open. Roots are beginning to form. Life is developing where your eyes cannot see it. And in the right season, what was hidden beneath the ground begins to appear above it. Your life can be like that. You may be in a season where you cannot see the roots, But God is developing something beneath the surface. He may be strengthening your character before the blessing arrives. He may be preparing your heart before the opportunity comes. He may be removing something that would have harmed you later. He may be positioning the right people, the right circumstances, and the right opportunities around your future. Do not mistake silence for absence. God does not have to make noise to be present. He does not have to give you immediate evidence for His hand to be moving. Sometimes He works quietly. Sometimes He answers gradually. Sometimes He changes things one small step at a time until one day you look back and realize that everything was coming together. That is why you must be careful not to judge your entire story by one difficult chapter. This morning, perhaps you are looking at one chapter and thinking, "This is never going to change." But God sees the whole story. You see today. God sees tomorrow. You see the problem. God sees the purpose. You see the delay. God sees the destination. There is a reason faith is so important. Faith does not require you to have every answer before you trust God. Faith allows you to say, "I cannot see what you are doing, but I believe you are working." That kind of faith gives your heart peace. You do not have to wake up every morning carrying the responsibility of figuring everything out. You do not have to know how every bill will be paid, how every relationship will be restored, how every opportunity will come, or how every unanswered prayer will be resolved. There are things that belong in God's hands. Sometimes the greatest act of faith is simply surrender. You can say, "Father, I give this situation to you. I have prayed about it. I have worried about it. I have tried to understand it. Now I choose to trust you with it." And when you surrender, you are not giving up. You are giving it to the one who can handle it better than you can. Maybe you have been carrying a situation for so long that you have become tired. You have prayed the same prayer again and again. You have asked God for the same breakthrough, the same healing, the same restoration, the same open door. And perhaps part of you has started wondering whether your prayer is even being heard. Let this morning remind you that your waiting season is not wasted. God can use waiting to prepare you for what you have been praying for. He can use the quiet season to strengthen your faith. He can use uncertainty to teach you dependence. He can use the moments when you have no control to remind you that He is still in control. You may not understand the timing, but you can trust the character of God. If God has been faithful before, He can be faithful again. If He carried you through yesterday, He can carry you through today. If He made a way when you thought there was no way, He can make a way again. So do not allow what you see around you to determine what you believe about God. Your circumstances are temporary. God is constant. Your emotions may change from one day to another. God remains faithful. Your situation may look uncertain. God is not uncertain. Your path may seem unclear. God knows exactly where He is leading you. This morning, instead of asking only, "When will my miracle happen?" begin asking, "Lord, help me trust you while you are working." Because sometimes the miracle begins inside you before it ever appears around you. God may be giving you patience before the promotion, peace before the answer, wisdom before the opportunity, strength before the responsibility, discernment before the relationship, courage before the open door. You may be asking God to change your circumstances while He is first changing your perspective. You may be asking Him to remove the mountain while He is teaching you how to climb. You may be asking Him to give you the answer while He is preparing you to carry what comes with that answer. And that preparation is not punishment. It is part of the process. So breathe slowly this morning. Let your heart become still. You do not have to rush into fear. You do not have to predict every possible outcome. You do not have to solve tomorrow before today has even unfolded. God is already there. He is already in the places you are worried about. He is already in the future you cannot see. He is already working in situations you cannot control. He is already preparing what you cannot yet recognize. Maybe the door has not opened because the timing is not right. Maybe the answer has not arrived because something important is still being prepared. Maybe the delay is protecting you from receiving something before you are ready for it. Trust the process. Trust the unseen work. Trust that God can be moving even when everything appears still. When anxiety tells you nothing is happening, let faith answer, God is working. When fear says it will never change, let faith say, God is not finished. When disappointment says your prayer was forgotten, let faith say, God hears me. When uncertainty says you are alone, let faith say, God is with me. And when you cannot understand the path ahead, simply take the next step with God. You do not need enough light for the entire journey. You only need enough light for the step in front of you. So today, walk gently. Pray calmly, believe quietly. Let God work without demanding that He explain every detail. There are blessings you have not seen yet, answers you have not received yet, opportunities you have not encountered yet, and chapters of your story that have not been written yet. And while you are waiting for what is visible, God can be working in what is invisible, preparing something beyond what you currently understand, shaping circumstances beyond your view, opening possibilities you cannot yet imagine, and moving your story forward in ways that may only become clear when you look back and realize how much was happening. While you thought nothing was happening, how many pieces were being placed into position while you were waiting? How many prayers were shaping your journey while you were wondering? And how God was already working behind the scenes, even in the moments when you could see nothing at all. There is a special kind of peace that comes when you stop trying to control the timing of everything and simply trust God. You may not know when the answer will come, how the breakthrough will happen, or what God is doing in the middle of your waiting, but you can know this: His timing is never outside His wisdom. What feels late to you is not late to God. What feels delayed may be preparation. What feels like silence may be an invitation to trust Him more deeply. Maybe you have been waiting for something for a long time. You have prayed about it in the morning, thought about it throughout the day, and carried it into the night. Perhaps you have asked God again and again to change your situation. You may have reached a point where your heart feels tired because you expected the answer by now. But this morning, allow yourself to breathe and remember that God sees what you cannot see. He knows what you do not know. He understands the complete picture, while you are only looking at one small part of it. We often want God to give us the answer immediately because we want relief immediately. We want to know that everything will be okay. We want the phone call, the opportunity, the healing, the restoration, the provision, the open door, the breakthrough. But sometimes God gives us something even more valuable while we are waiting: deeper faith. Faith grows when you trust God without having all the evidence in front of you. It is easy to trust when everything is going according to your plan. It is easy to praise when the door is open, the prayer is answered, and the blessing is already in your hands. But there is something powerful about being able to say, God, I still trust you, even though I do not understand this season. That kind of trust changes your heart. You begin to realize that your peace does not have to depend on circumstances. Your hope does not have to depend on a perfect report. Your joy does not have to depend on everything happening exactly when you want it to happen. You can have peace because your confidence is not in the situation. Your confidence is in God. Perhaps today you need to surrender your timeline. Maybe you have already decided when the miracle should happen. You have already imagined how the answer should come. You have already planned what the next chapter should look like. And when reality does not match your expectations, disappointment begins to grow. But God may have something different, not necessarily something worse, not necessarily something smaller, something different. Sometimes we ask God for one specific door when He is preparing a path we could never have designed ourselves. Sometimes we become so focused on the answer we expect that we fail to recognize the answer God is bringing. So today, loosen your grip. Tell God, Lord, I trust your timing. I trust your wisdom. I trust your way. If you open the door, I will walk through it. If you ask me to wait, I will wait. If you redirect me, I will follow. That is not weakness. That is spiritual strength. You do not have to force what God has not opened. You do not have to chase what He has not assigned to you. You do not have to manipulate circumstances to make something happen. What God has for you does not require you to destroy your peace to obtain it. There are things that only become beautiful when they happen at the right time. Think about a fruit tree. You cannot stand beside the tree and demand that the fruit appear because you are hungry. You can water it. You can care for it. You can give it sunlight and allow it to grow, but you cannot command the season to change. There is a process happening that you cannot rush. Your life has seasons too. There is a season for planting, a season for growing, a season for waiting, and a season for harvesting. If you are in a waiting season, do not assume that your life has stopped. Growth can happen in hidden places. Roots grow before fruit appears. Strength develops before responsibility arrives. Character is formed before influence increases. Preparation often comes before promotion. So if God has you in a waiting season, do not waste that season by constantly wishing you were somewhere else. Ask God what He wants to build in you while you are there. Maybe He is teaching you patience. Maybe He is teaching you forgiveness. Maybe He is teaching you to stop depending on people's approval. Maybe He is teaching you how to be content before you receive more. Maybe He is preparing you emotionally, spiritually, or mentally for something you have been praying for. You may not see the purpose today, but one day you may look back and say, "Now I understand why God made me wait." How many times has life shown you that your plans are not always the best plans? There may have been things you wanted desperately that did not work out. At the time, it hurt. You questioned God. You wondered why He allowed the disappointment. But later, you realized that what you thought was rejection was protection. A closed door can be an answered prayer in a form you did not recognize. A delay can protect you from stepping into something before you are ready. A detour can keep you away from a road that would have caused unnecessary pain. And sometimes God removes something because He knows what you cannot yet see. That is why trust matters. Trust says, "God, I may not understand this, but I believe you are good." Trust says, "I may not know the timing, but I know you are faithful." Trust says, "I may not see the miracle yet, but I believe you are capable of performing it." Trust does not mean you never feel afraid. It means fear does not get the final word. You can be nervous and still trust God. You can be uncertain and still trust God. You can cry and still trust God. You can have questions and still trust God. Faith does not require you to pretend that everything is easy. Faith simply reminds you that difficult circumstances do not have the power to separate you from God's presence. So if your heart feels heavy this morning, do not condemn yourself for being tired. Bring that tiredness to God. Say, "Father, I am tired of waiting, but I do not want to stop trusting you. Give me strength for today. Give me peace for this moment. Help me release tomorrow into your hands." You do not have to carry tomorrow today. Tomorrow has its own grace. Today has enough strength for today. Take this morning one step at a time. If you cannot see the whole path, take the next faithful step. If you cannot understand the whole plan, trust the one who knows the plan. If you cannot see the whole miracle, believe that God can begin with what is already in your hands. Sometimes we think faith means believing that everything will happen exactly as we want. But deeper faith says, "God, I trust you even when the answer looks different from what I expected." That is where peace begins. You stop fighting every uncertainty. You stop replaying every possibility in your mind. You stop asking yourself what could go wrong. You stop trying to predict the future, and you begin to rest. Rest does not mean doing nothing. It means refusing to let fear control your heart while you continue to walk faithfully. There is a difference between waiting in fear and waiting in faith. Fear says, "What if nothing changes?" Faith says, "God is still with me." Fear says, "What if I lose everything?" Faith says, "God will give me strength for whatever comes." Fear says, "What if the door never opens?" Faith says, "God knows which door is right for me." Fear says, "I need to figure everything out right now." Faith says, "I can trust God one day at a time." Let that truth settle into your heart today. You do not need to know the exact date of your breakthrough to believe in God's faithfulness. You do not need to see the entire road to take the next step. You do not need to understand every delay to remain hopeful. You do not need to force the answer. You simply need to keep trusting. Your miracle may come in a way you never expected. Your breakthrough may arrive through an opportunity you did not see coming. Your answer may unfold slowly instead of suddenly. Your prayer may be answered differently than you imagined. But whatever God is doing, keep your heart open to His direction. Sometimes the greatest victory is not simply receiving what you prayed for. Sometimes the victory is becoming the person God is preparing you to be while you wait. And maybe that is where you are today, being prepared, being strengthened, being refined, being positioned, being reminded that your worth is not determined by how quickly your prayer is answered. Your identity is not defined by your current circumstances. Your future is not determined by today's difficulties. Your story is not finished because this chapter is uncomfortable. So lift your eyes again. Let hope return. Let faith become stronger than fear. Let peace become louder than anxiety. And remind yourself quietly, God knows the timing. God knows the way. God knows what I need. I will trust Him. When you wake up tomorrow, you may still be waiting. But you can wake up with a different heart, a heart that says, I do not have to rush God. A heart that says, I do not have to force the outcome. A heart that says, I will remain faithful while I wait. A heart that says, my God is not limited by what I can see. And as you move through this day, carry that peace with you. When you face something uncertain, breathe and remember that God is already ahead of you. When something does not happen according to your plan, pause before you panic. When you receive disappointing news, give yourself permission to pray before you react. When the answer seems far away, remind yourself that distance does not mean impossibility. Keep believing, keep praying, keep walking, keep trusting, because the God you trusted yesterday is still the God you can trust today, and the same God who has carried you through seasons you thought you would never survive. is still holding your future, your unanswered prayers, your hopes, your dreams, your family, your purpose, and every part of your life that you are learning to place completely into His hands, allowing His perfect timing to unfold in ways you may not yet understand, but can continue to trust with a peaceful heart, one day, one prayer, and one faithful step at a time. Today, choose to walk in faith, hope, and victory, even before you see the answer you have been praying for. You do not have to wait until everything changes around you before you allow peace to enter your heart. You do not have to wait until the door opens before you believe that God is faithful. You do not have to wait until the miracle appears before you begin thanking God. Faith means trusting God in the middle of the process. Hope means believing that your story can still change. And victory means knowing that fear, doubt, and discouragement do not have to control your heart. This morning, remind yourself that you are not beginning this day alone. God is with you in every conversation, every decision, every challenge, and every unexpected moment. Before you know what this day will bring, God already knows. Before you encounter the opportunity, He knows about it. Before you face the difficulty, He is already there. Before you reach the moment that makes you wonder what to do next, God already sees the way forward. That truth gives you permission to breathe. You can slow down. You can stop carrying tomorrow on your shoulders. You can stop allowing yesterday's disappointment to steal today's peace. You can enter this day with a quiet confidence that says, "Whatever happens, I will keep my eyes on God." There may be things in your life that you cannot change right now. There may be circumstances that are outside your control. There may be people whose decisions you cannot control, situations you cannot predict, and answers you cannot force. But you can choose what you will believe while you are walking through those circumstances. You can choose faith instead of fear. You can choose hope instead of despair. You can choose peace instead of panic. You can choose prayer instead of constant worry. And every time you make that choice, you are strengthening your heart. Faith does not mean that you will never have questions. It means that your questions do not have to destroy your trust. You can say, "God, I do not understand why this is happening, but I still believe you are good." You can say, "I do not know how this situation will change, but I believe you can make a way." You can say, "I cannot see the future, but I know the one who holds it." That is powerful, because when you know who holds your future, you do not have to be terrified by what you cannot see. Maybe you have been focusing too much on the size of your problem and not enough on the greatness of your God. Maybe you have spent hours thinking about what could go wrong, replaying conversations, imagining worst-case scenarios, and trying to prepare yourself for every possible disappointment. But today, give your mind permission to rest. You do not have to rehearse every fear. You do not have to predict every problem. You do not have to create answers for questions that have not even arrived. God will give you grace for the moment when you reach it. For now, you have grace for today. There is something beautiful about beginning the morning with hope. Hope changes the way you see the day. You may wake up facing the same circumstances, but your perspective can be different. The problem may still be there, but your heart can be stronger. The waiting may continue, but your confidence can become deeper. Hope says this is not the end. Hope says God can still move. Hope says there are possibilities I cannot see yet. Hope says my current situation does not have the final word over my future. Never underestimate what happens when you protect hope in your heart. Hope gives you strength to keep going when you are tired. Hope helps you pray when you feel discouraged. Hope reminds you that one difficult season does not define your entire life. You may have experienced disappointment before, but disappointment is not destiny. You may have experienced rejection, but rejection does not mean you are forgotten. You may have faced failure, but failure does not mean your future is finished. You may have experienced delay, but delay does not mean denial. There can still be another chapter. There can still be another opportunity. There can still be restoration. There can still be growth. There can still be a testimony. And there can still be a miracle that you never expected. So, as you begin this day, do not speak against your future because of what you are experiencing today. Be careful with the words you repeat to yourself. Instead of saying, "Nothing will ever change," say, "I trust God to lead me." Instead of, "I cannot handle this," say, "God will give me strength for today." Instead of saying, "There is no way," say, "God can make a way where I cannot see one." You are not pretending that the problem does not exist. You are refusing to let the problem become bigger than your faith. That is the difference. Victory does not always mean that every problem disappears immediately. Sometimes victory means that the problem no longer controls your peace. Sometimes victory means that you can sleep at night, even though you do not have all the answers. Sometimes victory means that you can smile again after a season of tears. Sometimes victory means that you can forgive, release, move forward, and trust God with what you cannot change. Victory can begin in your heart before it becomes visible in your circumstances. So today, walk with that understanding. When something unexpected happens, do not immediately assume the worst. Pause, breathe, pray, ask God for wisdom before reacting. When someone disappoints you, do not allow their behavior to determine the condition of your heart. When a door closes, do not immediately conclude that your future is over. When a plan fails, do not assume that your life has failed. God can redirect you without destroying you. He can close one path and lead you toward another. He can use a difficult moment to reveal something important. He can take what looked like a loss and use it as preparation for something new. So keep your heart open. Keep your spirit teachable. Keep your faith alive. There is no need to rush into tomorrow. Today has enough. Today has a purpose. Today contains opportunities to pray, to love, to forgive, to encourage, to learn, to grow, and to trust. Maybe the miracle you are waiting for is still on its way, but while you wait, God can use today to prepare you. Maybe you are waiting for financial breakthrough, but today you can still thank Him for what you have. Maybe you are waiting for healing, but today you can still choose peace. Maybe you are waiting for restoration in your family, but today you can still pray without bitterness. Maybe you are waiting for a new opportunity, but today you can still prepare yourself. Maybe you are waiting for clarity, but today you can still take the next faithful step. You do not have to have everything figured out to move forward. Sometimes all God asks from you is the next step. Take it calmly, take it faithfully, take it without fear. And if you stumble, get back up. If you become discouraged, return to prayer. If you become afraid, remind yourself of God's faithfulness. If you become tired, rest without giving up. There is no shame in needing a moment to breathe. You are human, and some seasons are heavy, but you do not have to carry those seasons without God. Let prayer become your place of peace. Let worship become your reminder. Let Scripture become your foundation. Let faith become the voice that speaks louder than fear. And as you move through this Wednesday, remember that you do not need to know everything that will happen. You only need to know that you can trust God with whatever happens. That is where true peace begins. You can face uncertainty without being destroyed by it. You can face challenges without losing hope. You can face delays without believing that God has forgotten you. You can face opposition without surrendering your confidence. You can face an unknown future with a heart that remains steady, because your trust is not built on circumstances. Your trust is built on God. So let this morning be a fresh beginning. Release the weight of yesterday. Release the fear of tomorrow. Refade the grace of today. Lift your eyes. Straighten your shoulders. Take a deep breath. And remind your heart that you are still moving forward. There is more ahead. There are things you have not seen yet. There are prayers that are still unfolding. There are lessons that will make sense later. There are doors you have not encountered. There are people you have not met. There are opportunities you cannot yet imagine. There are moments ahead that may become some of the most meaningful moments of your life. So do not allow one difficult season to convince you that the entire story is difficult. Do not allow one unanswered prayer to convince you that God does not hear. Do not allow one closed door to convince you that every door is closed. Do not allow one failure to convince you that you cannot rise again. God is still writing. You are still growing. Your future is still unfolding. And your faith can become stronger through every season you walk through. Today, choose to believe that something good can still come from what you are facing. Choose to believe that God can bring purpose from pain, wisdom from waiting, strength from weakness, and hope from places where you once felt empty. And when you do not know what to say, simply whisper, "Lord, I trust you." Let those words settle deeply into your heart. Lord, I trust you. Not because everything is perfect, not because every prayer has been answered, not because you know exactly what tomorrow will bring, but because God is still God. He is still faithful. He is still present. He is still able, and He is still worthy of your trust. So walk into this day with faith in your heart, hope in your spirit, and victory in your mind. Let your attitude say, "I may not know what is coming, but I know who is going with me." Let your prayer say, "Father, lead me today." Let your heart say, "I will not give fear permission to steal my peace." Let your actions reflect the confidence that you are not walking toward the future alone, because with every step you take, every breath you breathe, every challenge you face, and every moment you surrender to God, you are learning to walk more deeply in faith, to hold more firmly to hope, and to live with the quiet confidence that victory can begin long before the answer becomes visible. As you continue trusting God, one peaceful step at a time,